Hey everybody, it is 1:11. I am here. I think everybody will be able to find me now because I am doing this directly through my Facebook page. So it is 1:11 and I am starting a little bit early because I wanted to make sure everyone who wanted to find the show could find the show. So here we are. We are finding the show. Um, the CFJ Coaching Success School show is 45 minutes where we spend time in your business. I answer your questions live. Hey, Claire Marie. And we talk about what it means to grow a business as a professional coach. And we get in the weeds. I'll answer specific questions from you about what's happening in your world. And I'll talk more broadly about things that matter as you're growing your practice, whether you're really new or whether you're further down the path. So I'm going to do a little pre-show talk before 1:15 for anyone who's jumping in, and I'm going to talk a little bit about practice, about what does it mean to practice things. I think one of the biggest challenges coaches often find is that they're Bronwyn, welcome. Um, I'm talking a little bit about practice, right? Because many coaches, and Bronwyn, you're further along, it's like the idea of practicing enrollment seems sort of strange, right? It's like, oh, either we think we should be able to do this, right, without maybe really learning how, or once you've done it once, it should just kind of happen by itself. And it doesn't work like that. I was on a call this morning with a coach, and we were talking about practicing, and that when you learn a sport, whether it's basketball or soccer or swimming, it's like learning to dribble takes tons of practice, right? I started playing basketball in college, believe it or not. They let me play. This was not a Division I team because I'm 5 feet tall. For those of you who have never seen me standing up, I am tiny. And I went to Emerson College in Boston. Hey, Pamela, you made it. Welcome. And they had a team, and I tried out and made it. It was my first time playing basketball. I'd played other athletics earlier in my life, including softball and things like that. I'd never played basketball. I had to really learn how to dribble a ball down the court, and it took a lot of practice. So I want to frame up today's show in the context of building a business and learning how to enroll is something you practice. It's a skill. Enrollment is a skill that you build over time. And I am more than 15 years into this business, and I'm still learning. I still have conversations with Steve Chandler where I'm like, this and this happened, and he's like, oh, but did you think of this? And I will say, no, I didn't. That's fantastic. That's one of the things I love about the profession of coaching. Not only can we continue to learn and grow in our own personal growth, we can continue to learn how to be more masterful at growing our business. So now it's officially 1:15. The CFJ Coaching Successful show is off and running. Emma, Sam, hey, yep, glad you're here. And we're just going to open it up with more conversation about practice. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and I will answer them, and we'll talk about what's happening in your business. Some of you are in the game of getting your very first client, which is super exciting. And some of you are further down the path with like, hey, I'm experiencing a lull, or hey, I am challenged in this one conversation I'm having with someone. So post your questions and we will cover them. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about my own experience of practice and skill building. Um, I did not come from a family where skill building was talked about in a conscious way. I think I shared last week, my mom is rather shocked at that, like I actually am doing well owning a business. She had a pretty low bar for me. She thought I'd be an office worker, which is nothing, that's not a judgment about office workers, but like she was like, I kind of thought you'd be a clerk, you know? And I said, well, why? I mean, clerks are fine. But she said, well, you didn't get very good grades, and you didn't seem like, there were things you didn't seem like you were good at. I was really bad at math. Um, So we never talked in my home about like, you can get better. We can practice. It was like you were either really good at math like my brother or you were really bad at math like me, and that was it. It was cemented. We were in our boxes, right? My box was Carolyn's bad at math. She seems to like to do things that involve talking, because one of my report cards said Carolyn talks too much with her neighbors. They did not realize what an incredible skill I was building, right? There was skill building happening right there, and they didn't know it. So I want to invite you all into the idea of like, what's your area of opportunity to practice in enrollment? I want to ask that question and get some answers going in the chat. What do you need to practice in your own business? Is it creating connections? Is it getting more curious? Is it being willing to venture out and dare to invite people into your world? What are the areas you know you need to practice? I want to hear. So give me some answers there in the chat. And I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the things that one of the coaches in the school is spending a lot of time focusing on right now. So one of the coaches in the school is in a game of just really building their community and their connections. And they are hosting a complimentary webinar. So they've created the webinar and now they're inviting people to that webinar. And they're all of a sudden hitting a wall like, oh, wait, I'm not getting that many people saying yes. And we are coaching them in the school on, you're going to need to do more. You actually have to do more. Sometimes events don't fill quickly. In fact, often. I don't want there to be this fantasy out there about, oh gosh, like everybody else's events fill. No. It's work to fill an event. It is actual work. So I want to really be a voice for it. Like that means, how am I going to create more connections and how am I going to build my community? All right, so I'm seeing some answers here. Creating new connections, breaking out of my limiting thinking, willingness, inviting new people, creating more opportunities for one-on-one invitations. All right, so I've got Gareth and Claire Marie, Jennifer, Patricia. So let's talk about that. Brianna, you're here. Referrals. My question, a past client texted me, I may have a potential client for you. What is your rate for new clients? I've never had a spectacular response from any I've tried here. I would love to know how you would handle. Okay, all right, so first I'm gonna talk about creating new connections and more opportunities for one-on-one invitations, because they're similar. So for Patricia and Gareth, and then anyone else who falls into this territory of how, like, I feel like my pool is empty of fish. That does happen, right? Because if we have a small pond, we then need to create a bigger pond. And one of the ways to create a bigger pond is through, and I know Patricia, you're doing this, I think with your granddaughter, is you're doing an event, right? Like we need to create opportunities for people to discover us, right? So we have a coach in our school who said, you know what I'm going to do? I think I mentioned this last week. I'm going to do a week of Facebook Lives for 5 minutes a day about leaning into the work that you love. And he did that for 5 minutes a day. So I have people, and new people found him through that, right? Like people, friends of friends. And he announced it in advance. He said, I'm going to do this for 1 week, Monday through Friday. And if you have someone in your life who is like not satisfied with their work and is kind of trying to figure out what to do next, invite them, have them friend me on Facebook, and I'll talk about that for 5 minutes a day. Now here's the key. So if you're going to do a Facebook Live or you're going to make a post, that's not where the work ends. The work doesn't end in that. The work starts with when people comment. Anyone who comments or hits like on anything you do is a connection. They are someone to cultivate, right? If hitting like is like someone took an action. They actually said like, hey, like I like this, or if they commented, even more. So you want to take those likes and those comments and convert them into nurturing into a conversation. So you might, the way to do it is you private message someone who hit like, and you're like, hey, you hit like on my post. Wow. Like, thank you so much. What was meaningful to you about the post? What was helpful to you about that? Start being curious. What was helpful? What made you like it? Now, if someone posted something more, like, wow, this is just what I needed today, then when you private message them, you're going to be like, wow, I really heard you. That's just what you needed today. Tell me more about that. Like, tell me what's happening for you if you're willing. That's where nurturing comes in. We are in a business of nurturing and connecting. So if you're going to use social media, the work doesn't end at a post or a video or a live. It actually takes place in the comments, in the likes. So that's where the work is, right? So our job is to nurture and connect. We are in a relationship building business. And I think that's not articulated enough in this profession. You know, like coaches love the idea of coaching someone, and some of the most meaningful content comes in the nurturing and in the enrollment. Michelle Bauman, who was my best friend and business partner, used to say to coaches, some of the most powerful coaching happens in the enrollment conversation. Some of the most meaningful parts of the coaching starts right there. And then it starts even before then. Am I willing to nurture? I just had someone say this to me the other day, and I'm going to keep talking about this. And Brianna, I'm going to take your question and Pamela's and you, Ms. Bronwyn. I had a coach reach out, and she said to me, and this is an important story, not about me, but about the power of personal connection. So I had a coach reach out. She said to me, I got your name off of a website, you know, and here's where I'm at in my business. And I wrote back to her and I said, okay, tell me a little bit more. And I asked her a few questions. And then I said to her, so let's get on the phone because it's going to be easier. And when we got on the phone, she said this to me after we had talked for a while. She said to me, I can't believe you made time to get on the phone with me. And then she said something else. When I wrote to Steve Chandler and I asked him for some resources, he wrote back to me. And I said, what do you notice about that? She's like, you connected with me personally. I said, exactly. That's what works. Connecting and serving. It's like many coaches are moving way too fast and we're not willing to slow down and really look at who's in my Facebook feed today. Who's sharing stuff that matters to them? So like Gareth, if you want to create more individual opportunities for invitations, are you spending 30 minutes a day on Facebook just reading what people in your world are doing? And are you really noticing them? And then are you private messaging them? Because you can do this too. You can read other people's posts. I remember back when I was building my business, this person I knew from the University of Santa Monica shared something about their business. And I private messaged her and I was like, wow, you're doing some really new stuff. That's amazing. How is it going? And she wrote, well, God, it's so new and different. And I said, hey, listen, I have no idea if this would help you. But if it would, we could get on the phone. I'm coaching full time now. And if it would be helpful just to have someone to talk with, we could do that. And totally fine to say no. Now, you're going to notice, right? I offered time. I said it was okay to say no. She wrote back and she was like, that would be amazing. So some of this is about really paying attention every day, being on Facebook. If I don't have anything else to do, that's what I'm doing. Instagram, Facebook. So Gareth and Patricia, I want to know in the comments if this is helpful. I'm going to move on to Brianna, to your question, and then we're going to keep going. All right, Brianna. So someone wrote to you, I may have a potential client for you. What is your rate for new clients? And you've never had a spectacular answer. So if someone writes to me and says, hey, I may have a client for you. What's your rate? I say to them, hey, let's jump on the phone for a few minutes. I want to hear about this person and I'm happy to share, but let's slow down. So we want to slow down. Now, let's say this person's like, I don't have time to get on the phone with you. Who gets on the phone anymore, Carolyn? It's 2021. I don't talk to other humans. So if they're like, I can't talk, I'd be like, well, text me back. Tell me a little bit about why you think this person could be a potential client. Like, give me some words here, and then I'll share more. So we want to, when someone says they have a referral for us, our response is, oh my gosh, tell me more. Like, what makes you think they'd make sense for a client, right? Because sometimes people think, oh, I have someone, but the person is not interested at all, right? But sometimes there's really, like, they're like, oh my gosh, it's my sister, and let me share what's happening, and let me share why I think she'd be a great client for you, and let me share more. Like, I want to ask a lot, especially if I can get them on the phone. So Brianna, you want to be like, wow, I so appreciate you thinking of me. Tell me more about this person. Let's get on the phone for a few minutes, and then I can fill you in. I want to hear more first, though. So we want to slow down on someone saying they have someone for us. We want to find out more and then be like, I'm absolutely willing to share my rates, but tell me more. Like, why would you send someone to me? That's a reasonable question. What makes you think this person would want coaching or would benefit from coaching? Because sometimes we have someone we think would really benefit from coaching, and they're like, I'm all good. Thanks a lot. Thanks for thinking I need coaching, but no thanks. Because what I'm about to say next is really important. Brianna, if they get on the phone with you and they're like, yeah, it's this person, and here's why I think it, blah, 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 blah. And, they tell you a lot, and you ask a lot, and you go, okay, so listen, I'm willing to have a conversation with them. Let me share with you how I work. So I'd want to have a conversation with them. I have no idea if I could help them, because you don't. I have no idea if I could help them. I'm willing to have a long conversation with them. Let me tell you the next step. The next step is that they would email me and say, hey, so-and-so said that I could have a conversation with you. And you want to tell them, Brianna, I'm willing to gift them a conversation from you. So it's my gift. You can tell them, hey, I got you a gift. I'm gifting you a conversation with a coach. Doesn't mean you'd work with them, but I'm gifting you a conversation. And when your person, Brianna, is like, well, yeah, but I need to know how much you cost, then you say, so listen, clients pay me X for 3 months, and they pay me Y for 9 months. That's the fee. But I want to be clear. I have no idea if I can help this person. We may have one conversation and be totally done. All right. So Brianna, you're going to let me know. Do you have direction there? Okay. Pamela, I ventured out and dared to invite, and I got a new client, but I'm afraid it's more of a therapy role than a coach. She's dealing with infidelity with her husband. I'm working hard to move her into focusing on the now rather than this past indiscretion, but it's really hard. I want to be sure I don't cross the line of therapist to coaching. So here's the thing. Pamela, your new client, what did they hire you for? See, this is a big one for coaches. What's the project? What did she say? Yes, I want to do this, and here's the project that you identified with her. What does she want the coaching to do for her? So I want you to put in the comments what it is, and that will help me give you some potential guidance. Bronwyn, practicing finishing with enrollment conversation proposals. I don't really know what that means. So you got to give me a little more. What does that mean? Like, is it a written proposal? Tell me more. Gareth, I'm so glad it was helpful. Patricia, it was helpful. Farnaz, I'm going to come back to you. Oh, Ed Leland. I know you're not Ed. I forget your first name. I guess you don't have to have a Facebook page to be a coach. You don't have to have you don't have to do any social media to be a successful coach. What you do need, though, is then you need to have community. So if it's not going to be building a community via social media, you might have tons of emails. I know a guy who has a huge contact list, huge. And I said to him, let's start having you connect with all those contacts. And he has tons of them from his prior business life. He has them from another community that he was a part of. And then he has a third community just because of his kid. And I'm like, those are really rich areas that you can start to connect and invite. And you might start with literally being like an email. Hey, Carolyn, how you doing? I've been thinking about you. How is the pandemic going for you? We haven't talked in 8 months. That can be an incredible thing just to start connecting. So you don't need to be on social media. I know coaches making good money who never are on social media. And they have communities they've developed from prior jobs, from other things they're up to. So you don't need it. But if you have nobody, if you're like someone who maybe has no prior professional life or has no, like, there are coaches who know two people. And I'm like, then you're going to need to do something, because this is a business where we need people. You know, we're not coaching fish or hamsters. Not saying that won't happen. Somebody's probably going to do it, but not me. I will not be coaching hamsters or fish. Um, uh, Linda, I remember. Okay, sorry, Linda. You are Arza Goldstein's friend. Um, Farnaz, having the expectation that it should be easier, faster, and when it's not, taking it personally and as an indication that I'm not great at this or evidence of some form of inadequacy. Well, you kind of coached yourself there. So you're taking it personally, using it as a indicator that you're not good at this, and it's just not accurate. See, like, this is where learning to be anti-fragile is really important. Like, if every time it doesn't go fast the way you think it should, and you're going to use it as a weapon, it's going to be really difficult in this business, right? That's a harmful thing to do to yourself, right? I'm into this idea. There are three kinds of thoughts: harmful thoughts, helpful thoughts, and neutral thoughts. Is that a helpful thought, Farnaz? Because my answer would be to you, it's not. And it's going to keep you out of the game. This is a profession of action. We're going to be in action. We're going to learn how to turn up the flame and take lots of action. And then as you're making the money you want, you can turn down the flame and be like, I'm good for right now. But that's what we all the coaches are learning in the school. Like, how do you know how to turn up the flame consistently and keep the flame at a consistent level of enrollment? Like, oh, I need 3 clients. What do I need to do to get that? And then how to turn the flame down. So Farnaz, I want to invite you into the possibility that actually it not being easy and it not going fast is a great thing. Because, like, some of my best muscles and Michelle's best muscles were built when an event we were doing wasn't filling as fast as we would have liked. Some of the best muscles, because we were like, are we going to dig in here and really do this? And it was like, we were like, we're doing this. So this is really about, are you willing to put in more effort and attention? And I made that post. That's one of the biggest challenges in this business, is people misunderstand that this requires effort and attention consistently. And I said, like, hey, consistency doesn't seem like a really fun and sexy kind of thing these days. Like, you don't hear that like on TikTok. Let's do a thing about consistency. And I want to invite us all into the possibility that consistency is the key. It's like one of the most exciting, fun things to get consistently good at your job. Like, really, it's like, I have more clients if I'm consistent, and that's what I want. So it's like, is consistency of action something you're willing to do and you're willing to practice? So Pamela, she wants to let go of the past and be happy. So Pamela, what I want to offer to you about your client is that it seems like there's an opportunity. Like, I don't spend so much time worrying about, am I being a therapist or am I being a coach? If she's your client and you said yes to her, she's yours to serve, right? So I wouldn't be that concerned at this moment. You might not want to work with her again, but right now your job is to serve her, right? Like, she's your client, which is amazing. So I just want to invite you into, like, okay, so how can I help her let go of some of this upset and disturbance and have more peace in her life? And you might be like, all right, what are the tools I know that could help her, right? I don't know what your training background is, right? But like, the Byron Katie work could be amazing for someone like that. So if you just YouTube Byron Katie's work, you'll get tons. You can go to Byron Katie's website and get the worksheet, which is an amazing thing that's all about, is that true? So is it true that, you can't live through what happened with your husband? Is that true? Right? I would really go into what will help her have a shift and go, we're going to do that. And I would say to her, are you willing? Are you willing to have a shift on this? But I wouldn't get concerned about whether you're being a therapist or being something else, because right now you're her coach. you did it. You got a client. So help her and be like, how can I help her? And really be in that question with yourself. So Claire Marie, you got a lot of comments on your last few lives. Thanked people, but never private message them. You can absolutely go back. Absolutely go back and go, you know what? Private message them. Be like, I thanked you, but I realized I didn't ask you a question about the comment you made. You said XYZ. I'm curious about that. So go back to them. Absolutely. No conversation is ever over. None. So for sure. And if you're going to do another week of lives, private message them and ask the question from the last time and then be like, hey, I'm going to do another week. Does this theme interest you? Because if it does, come. So go back and engage with them, Claire Marie. That's fantastic. I'm so glad. Oh, I love that. You've started emailing Farnaz. Farnaz is in my school. I love your answer. No, it's not helpful at all. So you and I are going to talk, because if it's not helpful, then we got to talk. I don't know what to say, Farnaz. This is about you dropping the idea that like hard work equals I'm not doing it right. Like that effort equals I'm not doing it right. I want to encourage you to put your head down and put in some effort and stop trying to make it mean anything about you. This is an incredible point in your practice, because it's a turning point where if it's like, what if I just show up to work and do more in connecting and filling my event and not make it mean anything about me? What if I just practice that? So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going back to Ed Leland, who's not Ed Leland, Linda. I love that though. I'm gonna just kind of call you Ed Linda. I started with email and letting people know what I'm evolving into. I've gotten good for you. That's funny. Yeah, you're like that. Good for you. That what is it? What can I do with good for you? Good for you? What's that? Okay, so your email where you let people know what you're evolving into is just information. It's like it didn't give them anything. I want to encourage you, Linda. Number one, no more I'm evolving into. I want to encourage you to be like, I'm a professional coach now, and I've launched my practice. So like, no more I'm evolving. I'm a professional coach. I've launched my business. And then Linda, what I want to say to you is you want to start offering conversations to people. And you could say, look, I've launched my business, and one of the things I'm doing is I'm offering conversations like pro bono. 3 people I'm offering a coaching conversation to. Pro bono, it's a gift, and you're one of the people I want to offer it to. Pick 3 people, and you're like, I want to offer you, I'm doing 3 coaching conversations with 3 people. You're one of the people on my list. I would love to offer you this, and it's fine to say no. So you want to start getting some practice inviting people into conversation and make it a gift. Make the bar really low. Be like, and you want to make it special. I'm only offering this to 3 people. But you could say I'm only offering it to 6 people, and you're one of the people on my list. It's a full-on coaching conversation. Is this something you'd like to do? Totally fine to say no. So Linda, is that something you think you could do? All right. Bronwyn, you want to practice the end of enrollment conversations and proposals, getting over the finish line with more yeses. So, look, you've been at this a while, right? What I'm going to challenge you here with is like to do some of your own game film, where to be like, all right, I'm going to take the last 3 conversations I had where I didn't get it over the finish line, and I want to slow down inside of me, and I'm going to look for themes. What do I notice about these 3 that I did not get over the finish line? What do I notice about the lead up? How much time did I spend nurturing them? Because your fees are at a level where you might need more time nurturing them. Or did you miss something? Like, I would really like deconstruct 3 and go, what can I learn? What can I learn? And, obviously I know you're in Ms. Amber Krizz's group, who's a faculty member at the school, and you can be like, hey, I want help deconstructing. I want to get better at going over the finish line. So I want to challenge you with that. All right. You're still Linda. How do I answer the question about a conversation? Like, what, or you're asking, like, what is the conversation about? You're offering a coaching conversation, and let me share a little more about that. So when we offer someone a coaching conversation or we invite them, things I like to say are like, this time can be about anything you want. It can be about what's working in your life, about what's not working in your life. It can be about what do you want to have happen in the next 12 months. It can be about anything personal or professional. You get to decide how you want to use this time. So you can give them some context, Linda, for like, well, what could we use the time for, right? So that is a great thing to do, right? It's like I'm going to give you some details now. We're at 1:45. We're going to have 17 more minutes here. This is one of the biggest challenges for coaches. Coaches are not there. The way we know you're making progress as a coach are two things. Are there conversations on your calendar? And then if they're not, are there connection calls on your calendar, right? Like I know somebody who's going through their list and all they're doing, because some of them are more social, they're like, hey, we haven't talked in a while. How are you doing? And they email back and forth. And he's like, you want to hop on Zoom for a 15-minute coffee? So he's backing way off of like inviting, and he's just connecting, because some of them are really old personal relationships, and that makes more sense. So you can say, let's do a Zoom coffee. But the way we know a coach is making progress, or the way I know, is that what's going on with your calendar? Are you spending time every day in enrollment, especially if you have nothing else going on? If you have no clients, are you spending 30 minutes a day sitting on Facebook, scrolling, going, who can I serve? What are people up to? Or on Instagram. If you're not on social media, go through your email list. Steve Hardison, who is a very well-known coach who charges more than $150K a year. He only works with people for a year. He and I are both fellow graduates of the University of Santa Monica. He coached Steve Chandler for a very long time. He said to Steve Chandler, this was before social media, by the way, let's go through the last 40 emails you received. The last 40, there are clients in there. You don't know it, but let's look. So Linda, for you, you might want to go, I'm going to go through my last 40 emails that I got. I wonder, and even if they're like, like some of you know this, I'm my mom is 86 years old, and I'm doing a lot of serving of her at this time in her life. My dad passed away last year, and my brothers and I are much more on the court with helping her. And so one of my jobs while she's in Los Angeles is I take her to visit doctors. I have met 3 amazing doctors just like through them serving my mom. Now, I'm not in the game of I want to get a client, but if I was, you could be sure that I'd be like, how am I going to create more of a connection with this person? They're the people in my world. So it's not like if you're like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I don't have any. I'm like, not true. There are people in your email. You might be part of a mom's group. You might be part of, look, Pamela just said, Nextdoor. She's enrolled 2 clients from conversations on Nextdoor. That's a great one, right? Because it's like someone in your neighborhood, and you can find out a lot. You can get wildly curious. So if I wanted a client right now and it wasn't going to be a coach, I would be following up with at least one of my mom's doctors, and I would be writing to them. And I'd be like, I want you to know 2 things. You were amazing with my mom, because my mom's not easy. This guy managed to create a connection with my mom, who can be really difficult and grumpy, and it didn't bother him. He was funny with her, but not overly funny. He just was great. And now the last visit with him, my mom brought a present for his baby that's coming. My mom brought a present for this guy. Okay? So this guy converted a grumpy, kind of reluctant person who was a patient into a raving fan. And my mom is not a raving fan of very many people. So that's someone I was super inspired by, because I watched him do this, and it was phenomenal. And now I'm like, I'm going to invite him. That's what I'm doing. This guy was unbelievable, and I'm going to do that. And it didn't hurt that he literally looks like Matthew McConaughey. And that's, that's not the reason he's a good doctor. But, it was fun. I was like, wow, this guy, like, this is like casting. Hello, general casting. So look in your last 40 emails, right? I had a conversation once with the guy who did my drapes because I just got curious about him. I was like, tell me what made you go into doing drapery? Um, so it can happen from anywhere. All right, so now we're having questions. I'm on next door. Great idea. Would you be willing to share your experience? So Linda, it's really about like getting curious, right? Like on Nextdoor, everybody's in conversations and you could be like, oh, tell me more about that. And Pamela will probably respond here. There we go. She's saying DM me. And Pamela, if you want to share it here, that's great. But I love the idea of Nextdoor. I think that's fantastic. Who else has a question that I can answer in our last 10 minutes? I want to really make this worthwhile for you who are here. There's 8 million directions we could go in here in terms of what would be helpful. I'm going to start with a question that came up last week where someone's like, how do I write more professional emails? Because some people are coming into this profession not having had practice at that. Like, I have coaches in the school who are former bankers and lawyers and advertising people, and they have some facility with like how to write a strong email, a clean email. And then there are people who are coming from other kinds that they're like, I've never written an email that. So I want to say something. I'm going to give you some general guidance. Most people in this world are overly social and people pleasing in their email communications. So what I mean by that is they're like, hey, how's, there's a too much of like gushy words, sloppy words. Like, I would love to have time with you. And oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Like there's too much personal social stuff going on. So I want to offer to you that practice, this is a practice. Learning how to write clean, effective emails as a coach that are still heartfelt and that are still impactful is a practice. It's a skill. Giselle, is sharing information, upcoming mindfulness course, always a waste of time? Should all emails be personal? I love that question. So Giselle, it's not that it's a waste of time. You're going to get better results if you write to me personally. So now, it's okay to do an email blast, right? Like, I'm doing a mindfulness course, blah, 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 blah. But then what you want to do, Giselle, is you want to write to me personally, and you would use the same email, but you would take that email and then hit forward and be like, Carolyn, I know you got the below, but I want to tell you, like, you and I had this conversation about mindfulness just the other day over text. This would be great for you. Like, do you want me to save you a seat? Because you're like, it will address exactly what you mentioned to me. So personal is always going to get better results when filling a course. Like, this is where Michelle and I watched Steve Chandler do this over and over and over again. Steve Chandler would, if he was choosing to, announce something, but then he would send out like 20 personal emails to me, to Michelle, to whoever. And I am telling you, they were gold because he saw us. His emails were thoughtful and they were personal. And I was like, I want to do that with him. He's like, he's going to help me. So they're not a waste of time, but you always want to follow up with personal emails. So I hope that's helpful to you. Pamela, I love what you just wrote. I want to share this because I think this is really powerful. So Pamela is sharing about Nextdoor. In a nutshell, people are lonely, scared since COVID, and there are people being super brave and vulnerable. I started acknowledging their vulnerability and willingness to share openly. Both happen this way. I have not yet actually marketed myself on Nextdoor. Please don't do that. But I think there's a way to do that professionally. That's my 2 cents. I actually offer to you, Pamela, I don't know that you need to market yourself on Nextdoor. You keep doing what you're doing, acknowledging people who are sharing vulnerably. I am telling you, more clients will come. That's what it takes, connecting personally. Bravo to you. Like, that's a really big win and a beautiful Like I learned something today called Nextdoor. I had never even thought of that. And that's a fantastic, some people are doing this over LinkedIn, by the way. So if you're a LinkedIn person, I know people who are doing exactly what Pamela shared about on LinkedIn, right? So I'm going to say it again. Like she's just going in there and connecting and saying, acknowledging someone who's sharing about their own vulnerability. Like, wow, you're so courageous. Wow, I love that what you're up to. And she's doing it with people in her neighborhood, which people love, right? Like, that's fantastic. Like, big win, Pamela. Like, bravo. Like, I'm going to share this at my coaching school this weekend. I have never even thought about Nextdoor, and I'm on Nextdoor, and I was like, wow, that's right. That's a fantastic way. And she's serving people. I think that's really important to slow down on. Even if those people never became her client, think of the impact of someone on Nextdoor getting a message from Pamela being like, wow, I so acknowledge you for that willingness that you just shared right there. Someone just got acknowledged on Nextdoor. A neighbor just said, hey, wow, that's phenomenal what you did. So that's the essence of what we're doing. One of the skills that we talk a lot about in the CFJ school is the skill of acknowledgement. So I'm going to be a little broad here. Most people are not getting acknowledged in their world. Like people, Steve Chandler used to say to me, people don't get apologized to enough, which I agree with. They also don't get acknowledged enough. People, it's not something, I didn't grow up being acknowledged in my house. I mean, once in a while, my dad was like, good job, kid. But it wasn't something that was actively practiced. So in my view, people are acknowledgement starved because it's not something most people hear or get, even in their workplaces. Some bosses are way better at it than others. But I want to say as professional coaches, learning how to acknowledge people genuinely in a heartfelt way is profound. It's one of the most healing things we can do in our work with people. And that includes as we're connecting, because it's remarkable. Hey, Libby Jackson, who I think is an extraordinary person. And I'm still being like, Libby, when are we going to connect? Because your water, Libby has this remarkable personality and way of being that more people need to be around. So I'm all about like, how can I help my college roommate, Libby Jackson, have more people get to her water? Because each of you, by the way, have really unique water. And there are people who are thirsty for it. And that's one of the keys, right? So what Pamela is doing on Nextdoor is she's sharing her water. She's seeing people and she's sharing her water and creating engagement, not from a place of like marketing, but a place of genuine humanness. Genuine humanness. And that's what acknowledging is. It's like genuine humanness, right? So even if you never do anything else, if you only watch this one show and you say like, wow, how can I acknowledge people more around me, in your family and in the world? More will come when we acknowledge people. It's one of my favorite things to do. And it's something that I'm looking to do, right? Like I want to pay attention to who I can acknowledge, because when I'm acknowledged, it feels good, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, they look what they noticed, and that's an amazing thing. So I want to say that because as you're nurturing relationships and as you're connecting, look for where you can acknowledge someone in a heartfelt, real way, not over the top. Not over the top, because that feels disingenuous, right? That's when people go, ill. Why does this person want something from me? So I'm going to use the last couple minutes we have today to talk about that. So when we're acknowledging and when we're connecting, the number one job as a coach is to not be in an energy of, I want something from you, right? See, it's like I serve people all day long. Some will become clients, some never will. But my job is to serve without like, I want to get you, right? Anytime you're in like, I want you, I want to get you, I need a client, I need money, people will feel it, even if they can't articulate it. So our job is to die before battle, as Steve Chandler says. Like before I walk into a conversation, I am dying before battle. Like that will not be present between you and I. The only thing that will be present is my curiosity about you and my intention to serve you. Now, this is another practice. Practicing leaving your own neediness outside the room. Neediness is not a thing people look for in a coach. Nobody's walking around in the world going, my coach, the one I hire, I want them to be needy and I want them to be really like people pleasing. Nobody's walking around going, my favorite kind of coach is someone who's really needy and who feels desperate. That's not the coach I want. And sometimes we're giving off that vibe. And it's human. It's like, especially if you're challenged and you need money, but like that's an important job of professional coaches, to learn how to let their own desires and needs stay outside the room and be like, I'm only here to serve you. Even if I need a client, I don't need you. And even if I need a client and need money, I don't need your money. Like I can find another way to get money, but I'm not going to let that, not just not let it leak into the conversation. I'm not going to let that, I'm going to use a really strong word here. I'm not going to let that poison the conversation. I don't want my own need and wants to poison the conversation, because then I'm not in service. Now that's big stuff I'm talking about, and that might be like, Carolyn, how are you? Like, good on you. You've been doing this a long time. I had to learn. Like, it's taken me a long time to leave that stuff outside the door. And I'm human. I did it a lot. I was so good at needy and creepy. Like, I was masterful. So I just want y'all to know, like, I had needy down. And that did not help me get clients. So if you're one of those people, congratulations. You can be like, hey, I'm good at needy. Bravo. And you can be like, all right, I got to get that out of my interactions. I got to get it out of my emails. I got to get it out of any conversation I have. Coaches can get really eager. Someone's going to talk to me. I'm going to get a client. Slow yourself down. Be like, nope, my only job is to serve this person powerfully, right? If the needle moves enough for them, there's a higher likelihood they're going to become your client. So that's the job of like, can I serve this person really deeply, really powerfully, have them feel like, wow, I need to talk to this person more. Like, I want to be around them. Like, I feel different with them, right? That's what we're doing. So I just, first of all, bravo to all of you. I so acknowledge really rich conversations, really good questions. Next door, like that's a whole new thing now. Pamela, you just like upped the game big time. Bravo to you. And great questions about how do I increase connections and how do I increase invitations, referrals, practice, and then practice. So we're going to talk more about that next week. And in the comments, if there's other things you want me to talk about or questions you have, you can put it in the comments right now. You can private message me with like, I would love to hear more about this. You're what makes the show really good. So I thank you, and I'm so thrilled. It's been so fun to be here every week with you. And next week is a new week. So hey, go connect on Nextdoor and then come back next week and tell us how it went. All of you are in your own neighborhoods. That's what's so great, right? Like, it's so specific. So go serve some people, go make a difference, and let's see what happens. And we'll see what you have to say next week on the next CFJ Coaching Success School show. Nice work, everybody.